What's good, everybody? Welcome into the Midstate 48. My name is Chris Brooks. Thanks for joining us here on 615 Preps. We're getting you ready for the 2021 football season in Middle Tennessee, and we start with a preview show of some of the lower classes in Division I. Tonight, we're going to have Class 1A, 2A, and 3A, and we'll have 4A and 5A later on in the week. I want to bring on the guys with me to introduce themselves. Gentlemen, welcome in.
Good to be here. Good to be here, guys.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Those of you who are familiar with us, you remember Scott from last year, but Tom's our newest guy. Tom, let's get the intro out of the way right now. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be the third man in.
Well, my name is Tom Duggan, and I've been covering sports for, this sounds so bad now, but almost 30 years, I guess, in Middle Tennessee, and worked with WJLE Radio, covered DeKalb County sports for a long time, and the Smithville Review on top of that, and then worked for about the last 11 years with DTC Sports, covering some teams in the Upper Cumberland region. And guys, I'll tell you what, I'm excited about 615 Preps, and it's going to be an exciting season. And one thing I'm just proud about, so far so good. Everything seems normal. Looks like we're right on track to get a normal football season, and fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for sure. Now, I don't know if you know what normal is around here, but
yeah, I was about to say normal ain't our bag, baby.
We don't do normal around here at 615 Preps. That's just part of our DNA. So,
it's all good. It's all good.
We're glad to have you, and we appreciate you coming on and helping us out this year. It's good to have your expertise and your experience in here, and
thank you.
It'll be a fun year. Scott, welcome back.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome back to you.
Good to be here for 2021. I mean, this looks to be a fun year around Middle Tennessee for a lot of reasons. I mean, honestly, having a normal run up to the year has certainly made it a lot better to get ready for the season because it feels good. It just feels good to have some sort of normalcy in the preseason like we have had the last few weeks.
Yeah, I tell you, you go out to cover a scrimmage, you go out to watch a practice, and you can tell everybody is really geeked up to get out there again. I mean, as much as you can really enjoy running sprints or, doing any of that work, but you could tell the kids were, appreciative of actually just being able to get out there. And, I tell you, I was appreciative of being able to be out there.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll tell you what, guys, it's also good to see some fans out there in the stands. I mean, that's one thing that, it seemed so strange last year, just looking up at the stands and hardly anyone there. And that to me is just makes it even more exciting seeing the folks back out at the ball field.
Yeah, and it seems like that we're on track to have, fairly full stadiums if things continue as they are now. They could change, and we all know, how the situation is going around with COVID and all that stuff. But, I'm hoping that, we can get a full season in like normal.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything we learned last year, it's A, expect the unexpected, but B, also these coaches and the administrators learned a little bit more about how to handle this. So hopefully they're getting plans together. Hopefully, that they're not throwing any roadblocks. So, hopefully with good management and good sense, we'll have a good season.
Yeah, you mentioned the coaches. That's one thing I take away from 2020 is their ability to move on the fly with so many games either getting moved around, canceled, or whatnot. They had to be very flexible, and they had to be able to figure out how to make a plan on a dime. And we even saw games scheduled as late as the morning of and actually got them in. So I think they learned quite a bit about themselves, more so than anything else last year.
And learned how to communicate with each other. I think that was a big one.
And I was going to say, it was totally new for everybody. So credit a lot of these coaches for having to do things on the fly and experience a situation that no one had ever experienced before. So, again, Scott, you touched on it. They've learned how to handle this. The coaches have, the administration has. So, we hope we don't see, COVID spike like it did last year. We have the same kind of issues. But to the good of that, if we do see a spike this year, I think everyone's much more prepared to handle it this time around.
Yep. And a lot of change for 2021, just the alignments themselves, and we'll get to a lot of those shortly. Another big change, is our final destination. No more going to Cookeville for the championships. We're headed to Chattanooga for the Blue Cross Bowl in 2021 for the first of at least 2 years there. So going to be an exciting trip to go down there to the scenic city and see those gold balls passed out at Finley Stadium at the campus of Chattanooga. But we will miss Cookeville just because A, it was kind of close to us, and B, there's a little bit of nostalgia about having that place in December, although the facility could have used some work, and it looks like they're going to try to work on it.
It looks like it's something that they needed the time, and 2 years ought to be enough time to get some repairs done, to change the way, change some of their bid proposals that didn't work out, and allow them to get back in it. I mean, 2 years is a good time. I'm interested to see how Chattanooga hosts the city. It's exciting because it is right downtown, just a little bit down the street from the Chattanooga Choo Choo and the aquarium. It's going to be an exciting time for the families and the kids, I think.
Yeah, we will be. We've got 11 full weeks of regular season play and 4 weeks of playoffs before we get there, though. So got a ways to go before we get down there. And then a lot of teams that are getting their eyes set on trying to get another gold ball, and a lot of reclassification, a lot of moving around in regions and districts, and some new opponents for teams this year that are going to make things very interesting from the very start. So 2021 promises to be an intriguing year on a lot of fronts. And to get started, let's go into Class 1A, and let's go ahead and just bring up Region 4, which begins our coverage area out east. Now, a lot of change here, as Region 4 was a 16 region in 2020. It will no longer be that way. In fact, it was going to be a 5-team region until a couple of days ago when Pickett County announced that they would not be fielding a varsity team for the next 2 years. They're no longer in contention for a playoff spot, and this region now goes from 6 teams in 2020 to 4. Guys, everybody's making the playoffs, so what changes now that they're all knowing they're going to play an 11th game?
Well, it's kind of a shame for Pickett County. I'll say off the top that they did have to drop football. I know they've struggled with numbers the last few years, and they are planning to have a junior varsity season this year and next year. They did hire a new head coach, and they're planning on pursuing that and hope to get back to varsity in 2023. But, when I look at this, you feel good for Red Boiling Springs. You know how much they have struggled in football over the years, and I know, in a lot of ways you may just want to play to get into the playoffs, but Red Boiling Springs, I think they'll take that playoff berth, and they'll be tickled to death with it. 1, 2, and 3, we know Gordonsville is going to be loaded this year. Clay County's been pretty good. Joe Burns has been as well. And Scott, looking at that top 3, though, I think there's going to be some pretty competitive ball games out of the top 3 in that region.
I do believe that you're right there. I don't know that anything really changes with the, now they all make it, other than the fact that, as you go down, you might rest a person here, rest a person there. Or you pay attention to injury a little bit more than if you were absolutely up against it. But I agree with you, Tom. I think that the top 3 are going to be the key. Now, Gordonsville is king of the mountain right now. I think that Gordonsville is pretty tough. They got depth across the board, powerful offense. It's pretty much their region to lose, in my opinion.
Look back at the 2020 standings for just a second. Monterey's exit and going to 2A really kind of clears a lot of spots up as well. We mentioned Red Boiling Springs will be in the playoffs for just the second time ever and the first since 2014. Regardless of the record, they know they're going to play in November, and that's a big deal for such a small community like that. But let's talk back about Gordonsville for a second. Now, they actually defeated the defending state champions in Fayetteville last year. So coming to 2021, it would appear that they've got high hopes. The one team that might be standing in their way again would be South Pittsburgh.
That's a formidable team too. So,
yeah, South Pittsburgh, that's a rivalry, guys. That thing's been going on for many, many years in the playoffs between those two, and it's a great rivalry, really. And if you follow Gordonsville and South Pittsburgh football, I think they almost look forward to playing each other in the playoffs, and they've kind of used one another as a measuring stick over the years. But Chris, when you look at that Gordonsville schedule this year, man, that regular season schedule is going to be tough. They got Coalfield out there. They play Trousdale County. They've got, of course, inter-county rival Smith County. They'll lead off the season with that. Watertown, Eagleville. That's just the non-region games. And I tell you what, Coach Clemens' school, they're going to be ready to go come playoff time.
And Gordonsville is a team we're going to see a couple of times. You mentioned the Smith County game. That's a Saturday night game in week 1, which the community is extremely hyped up about. They're going to have a big tailgate party beforehand in Gordonsville on Main Street. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Just small town football is hard to beat on a night like that when you have that kind of atmosphere and a team that really is ready to go against the county rivals. So we'll be there that Saturday night, and we'll also see Gordonsville in one of our spotlight games against Eagleville later in the year to get them a little bit of love. So these key games, we bring them up just because really they're for playoff positioning. I mean, Joe Burns and Red Bowling Springs, the winner's going to have at least a 3 seed. I mean, and Joe Burns can play for number 2 at Clay County. And Clay County, Gordonsville, October 29th is going to be for the region title. Really is just about playoff positioning now since they're all going to go.
Right.
So Region 4 out of the way. Let's move to Region 5. Some more changes there this year, but let's look back at 2020. We mentioned Fayetteville a minute ago, the 1A state champion. Moore County finishing second. Mount Pleasant was in this region last year. They are no longer in Class 1A. They actually moved up and swapped spots with Eagleville, as we talked about just a moment ago. Some of these changes, Mount Pleasant and Richland up to 2A. Eagleville comes down into Region 5 for Class 1A. Collinwood and Wayne County move out. They move in, from Region 6 to Region 5. Region 5 goes from 6 teams to 7, and here's how that looks like.
And, of course, it gets tougher when you add more teams into an alignment, and you look over at 4-1A, and you've got 4 teams. It was 6, but now it's down to 4. All are going to the playoffs. And I know some coaches, sometimes they get a little upset when they look across the board and, hey, they've only got 4 teams in their region and we've got 7. But, this is going to be a pretty tough alignment. I think Fayetteville's going to have a good chance to be right in the mix again this year. Excuse me, guys. And I just see a competitive battle for those top 4 spots here in 5-1A this year.
Yeah, the one good thing about Region 4 is they don't have to face these teams in the playoffs because that's on the other side of the bracket. So They'll be happy to avoid that trouble until possibly being in Chattanooga. I tried to say Cookville again, but one of those things we'll have to work on for 2021.
We're gonna end up battling, like you said. We'll be battling that all season long.
It's almost like at the start of a new year when you don't change the date to the right year. It's kind of like that almost.
How many checks do you have to scratch out?
Well, if I wrote checks anymore, that would be one thing. But look at some of the key games in Region 5, and Eagleville is going to have a chance to do a lot of maneuvering, especially considering that the 3 of their key games are at home.
Yeah, I think Eagleville's got a really good shot at finishing 2 or 3 in this region. I think they'll have a shot at that. I think Cornersville is going to be the team that may be tough to beat there.
We talk about a lot of quarterbacks in this area, and we didn't mention anybody in Region 4. I want to go back to this just a second. Matthew Albritton for Gordonsville.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Collins for Eagleville. Collins will also play a lot at safety. These guys are going to play a lot of 2-way football, too. It's one thing you will see in 1A, 2A, and 3A. You'll see a lot of 2-way players, and the quarterbacks actually get involved in that quite a bit down here.
Yeah, and you brought up Marcus Collins for Eagleville. He's a baller. I mean, he's great on both sides of the ball, and I think that he's really going to be the star. He is the straw that stirs the drink for Eagleville.
And you look at Albritton for Gordonsville, this is a kid that came up his 8th grade year after he led his 8th grade team to the junior high championship. He comes up to the varsity team and actually plays about 4 games, and he's the starter at quarterback by the end of his 8th grade year. So, he's one of those kids as he goes into his junior year. Man, look at all the experience he has already. And, he's a gunslinger at quarterback. He's got some wheels he can move, and a good player in that defensive secondary as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest question for them may be just how they replace Darryl Holt in the backfield.
Yeah, Holt was a big force in the backfield for Gordonsville last year, and replacing his production is going to be key for them.
Absolutely. They've got some good skill players that, much like Albritton, have been playing since they were young. Coach Clemens got those guys out there when they were young. But, yeah, Holt, tremendous athlete. Really, he'd stepped away from football, came back, but he had a tremendous impact on them last year.
That does it for Class 1A. Let's go ahead and jump into Class 2A, where we're going to have a lot of changes here as well. We'll start in Region 4 with a region that didn't actually have a ton of changes, but it had a couple of swaps, and the 2020 standings kind of been the last couple of years just like this. Watertown and Trousdale County 1-2 again. They did it all 4 years of the last format, and may very well do it again. Westmoreland was third, Cascade fourth, Jackson County fifth, East Robertson was sixth, with Trousdale County getting one step away from the Blue Cross Bowl, but Meigs County got them for the second year in a row. And the natives are getting a little bit restless. They want a taste of a title again. It's been 8 years.
Well, that's a formidable team, though, Meigs County, and they've done a good job getting as far as they have the last few years. There's some pieces they're going to have to replace that's going to be really interesting. But again, my question is, does that regular season curse still hold?
Last 3 years, Watertown's won the regular season game. Trousdale County's won the playoffs. So maybe you try to reverse that by going in the other direction. I don't know. One big change in this region is that Trousdale County Watertown game. It was in week 3 for the last 4 years. It now moves to week 11. So essentially your regular season championship comes in the last week of the year.
And that's the way it should be, really. I mean, that game was, I believe, the first region game of the season for both, playing it in week 3. And it kind of killed the suspense for the rest of the regular season because Watertown and Trousdale County were such prohibitive favorites over the remainder of the region. You kind of knew how it was going to play out. But, hey, credit Trousdale County. They bounce right back each year in the playoffs. And I know very frustrating for Watertown. They want to get over that hump. They want their shot at Meigs or Marion or whoever happens to come out of there. But, Watertown's been slowly building up. I look for that to be another excellent ball game in week 11.
Yep, for sure. And going on the road and winning in the playoffs, too, is impressive enough in its own right. So, it adds a little bit to the accomplishment in the playoffs when you do get revenge like that. Some of the changes for Region 4 this year: Jackson County up and out. They're going to 3A. Cascade comes into Region 5 from Region 6. Check that. Cascade moves to Region 5. Sometimes I can't read my own stuff. Harpeth and Whites Creek dropped from 3A to 2A, and both get into Region 4 this year. And we mentioned, obviously, the Watertown, Trousdale County moving from week 3 to week 11. So the new alignment looks like this, with East Robertson, Harpeth, Trousdale County, Watertown, Westmoreland, and Whites Creek making up the new Region 4 of Class 2A. We mentioned some key games. Of course, that big one at the bottom, Watertown, Trousdale County, stands out. But Watertown's going to have to figure out how to get there, because East Robertson has eyes on a lot of improvement this year, especially with Taylor Groves leading the charge for that offense and defense, for that matter.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
No, you go right ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, that East Robertson team, they've slowly been building it, and they're hungry. They've been getting closer and closer, and I think they're going to have something to say. They're not going to be a cakewalk for both either Watertown or Trousdale County, I don't think. And I'm always keeping my eye on Westmoreland. They're just a team that sometimes can scare you to death, and they're always a well-coached team. They've always got something out there. So just keep an eye on that Westmoreland team, and let's just see how much trouble they can give the two big teams in Watertown and Trousdale as well. Yeah,
you brought up Westmoreland. Half that team is seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So those kids have been there. I think that they've got it in them to make a run this year. But I still like Watertown with Braden Casino still back there at quarterback. Even though, they've lost Quantaria Hughes Malone, and I'm sure Trousdale County is glad to see him go. But I think that, once again, it's going to come down Watertown, Trousdale County. My question is Trousdale County's offense. Can they, what are they going to look like?
Yeah, that was a big question coming into 2021. And I mean, they didn't score a ton of points last year, so they've got to figure out a way to not put so much pressure on their own defense to win games. That's going to be one key for this region. Can Trousdale County's offense outscore people?
And that's kind of been the MO for them for the last couple of years. Their defense has been tremendous, and Coach Satterfield does an excellent job on that side of the ball, but the offense just seems to have struggled to find an identity. You do have an experienced quarterback back there Keenan Burnley is a good dual threat type quarterback. You're also going to see him play a big role on the defensive side of the ball as well. And, Scott, I think it was you that said, or one of you two guys said something about they're hungry. 8 years is a long time, folks, for Trousdale County to go without a state championship. So, needless to say, the heat is on. But Coach Satterfield, he's got a lot of experience back. A really good team, I think, should challenge for that 2A gold ball this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, if one of those two teams can get over the hump and get to Chattanooga. I mean, Trousdale County did make the title game in 2018, but they lost. And, when you lose a championship, it stings even worse. So this long title drought in Hartsville, they're getting a little hungry for it. So will be interesting to see how they handle it this year. And I think Trousdale County might be there at the end, but Watertown will have something to say about it, especially in week 11. Move on to Region 5, where Eagleville drops out and Mount Pleasant takes their place, pretty much a trade of sorts. 2020, Lewis County won the region, but Region 5 didn't fare too well in the playoffs with only two teams even getting out of the first round. So changes in Region 5. So Community is up to Class 3A. Mount Pleasant and Richland move up to 2A and come into Region 5. Eagleville's out. They move to 1A, as we mentioned earlier, and Lewis County goes out from Region 5 to Region 6 in Class 2A. So here's how Region 5 looks now. Cascade Forest, Loretto, Mount Pleasant, Richland, and Summertown make up this new region. Guys, thoughts?
Well, I think Mount Pleasant has got a real good chance of making a play for third. I don't know if they can quite get up to a home game yet. I know that Kit Hartsfield's got 15 starters returning, but he's only got 4 seniors on that squad. So I still think that they may be a year away. It's going to be interesting to see how much passing the team does. The Strayhorn is a gifted runner, but he's going to have to develop skill position players, in my opinion.
It looks to me like everything that I've seen from Mount Pleasant, they are trying to tout speed of the skill positions more than anything else. And in 1A or in 2A, if you have speed, it can be a big advantage. So, I mean, they may be able to, cause some problems in this region, even though it's still going to be a climbing effort for them out of last place.
And you mentioned Coach Hartsfield. He comes from Blackman, and boy, he's seen his share of speed playing in those Murfreesboro teams. But he knows what it takes to win. Again, kind of a slower paced game you're going to see typically in a 2A classification. I look at Forest. That's another team that is going to have a shot to win this region this year. And Forest, we were talking about Watertown and Trousdale and their rivalry. It was just a few years ago when those two teams, Forest and Watertown, shared a region. And, they really had it going at that time and had the football program really humming along. And I think they dropped a step back the last couple of years. But keep an eye on Forest. I think that might be a team that bears watching this year in 5-2A.
Yeah, that's going to be real interesting to see how they kind of funnel things out in Region 5. With only one team in our area in that region, though, it's a little tougher to get some info from some teams at some point. But we'll be keeping an eye on Mount Pleasant because Kid Hartsfield coming over from Blackman, one of the many coaching changes in the area this year. I think we had 18 coaches out of the 89 that we cover now that changed this year, which is a significant number to begin with. I mean, you don't usually have a lot of coaching turnover, but I think 2020 kind of changed some things. On to Class 3A, which has quite a bit of movement of its own. And we start in Region 4, where the biggest change for those teams is the fact that Upperman is no longer there. The 2020 region champion in Region 4, Upperman going to 4A after an 8-4 finish. But they didn't have a lot of luck in the playoffs. They lost in the second round, and everybody else got knocked out in round 1. So really, how does this group, how did the teams that stayed over? Well, you see some of the changes. Upperman up, Community up, York Institute drops to 2A. Smith County goes from Region 4 to Region 5. Giles County goes from Region 5 to Region 4. So the teams that are left, Cannon County, Community, Giles County, Grundy County, Sequatchie County. The way this alignment sets up, Cannon County, our only team in this region, they actually, I think, get a big benefit from some of these teams leaving.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right in on that and just say I know it's been since 2009 that Cannon County's been in the playoffs, and that's a long drought for them. They're hungry for playoffs. Coach Matt Daniel, he's really been building things the right way there in Woodbury, and I think he's got to be breathing a bit of a sigh of relief to see Upperman gone, to see Smith County gone to different regions. This seems to be a more competitive region for Cannon County. Giles, typically always a good football team. Sequatchie's always well coached. They're tough. But 3, 4, 5 there, it could be anything goes. In Grundy County, they've struggled. New head coach there, and they've really had a lot of issues with that program in recent years. I think Cannon's got a great shot to get their first playoff berth in 12 years.
Oh, I agree. I think that they are primed and ready to go here. I think Coach Matt Daniels, he's got depth. He's got a returning quarterback in Harrison Carr. I think you're right. I think their big test is going to be the Sequatchie County game.
The great thing about them is they've only got to find one. They have to win one game basically to get in, and that's their shot. And you look at some of the key games. Sequatchie County, we mentioned that one against Cannon County, or Community Giles County. Cannon and Grundy on October 1st is a good shot for them as well. So they'll have their opportunity to make some people happy down there in Woodbury and get some November football for the first time in a long time. And I know that Cannon County would be excited just to get in.
And, they've missed the playoffs each of the last 2 years in the final game by 1 point. And, boy, just to be that close that you can taste it. And they're going to be motivated. Like you said, Scott, this is a team that's got some players back. They've got some pretty good size. That's one thing about Coach Matt Daniel. He's got these kids working hard in the weight room. They're strong up front. This is going to be a team I think is going to be really good in the trenches. That's going to pay off for them. They've got some experience at quarterback, and look for them to make some noise there. I think they've got a real good shot to really surprise some people there in 4-3A.
Yep. Some of the movement, though, that came out of Region 4 goes over to Region 5. And Region 5 last year was an all-metro region, with the exception of Giles County. But Pearl-Cohn lost in the semifinals to Milan, and now Pearl-Cohn is moving to 4A. So it opens a lot in Class 3A, especially on the western half of that bracket. You don't have to worry about fighting with Pearl-Cohn for a playoff spot. Jackson County moves up into 3A. Maplewood moves down into Class 3A from 4A, and then Whites Creek is out. They move down to 2A. And then you have Smith County and Giles County swapping regions, which actually, where did I put that? Okay. Anyway, so the region looks like this. It's got Stratford, East Nashville, Smith County, Jackson County, and Maplewood. Those 5 teams. Another 5-team region where one win gets you in. So the question I want to pose to you guys, is anybody going to lose to Jackson County?
Poor Jackson County. And, they were really doing some pretty good things in Region 4-2A, and kind of makes you scratch your head moving up to 3A. And I know geography sometimes plays into that, but Jackson County, they're going to have their hands full this year. And, Smith County's got some good size this year. New coach in Matt Dyer, but, Coach Dyer's no stranger to high school football, obviously. His dad coached at Smith County back in the 90s, so familiarity there. But the thing Smith County's always struggled with, particularly come playoff time, when they go and they meet up with a lot of these metro area schools, East Nashville's a good example, just the speed element, the total athletes that these schools are able to develop. Smith County's had issues with that. How will they fare this year in this region, going up against East, going up against Maplewood, Stratford? It's going to be a whole lot different than it was in 4-3A.
Yeah, for certain. But at least you get that element in the regular season. You can prepare for it instead of waiting to the playoffs where it hits you all at once.
Yeah.
So.
And to answer your question, Chris, it's not likely.
Yeah, it looks to be it looks to be a 2-team race at the top with East Nashville and Stratford, and that September 3rd game is going to be critical for both those teams. I think the winner is going to win this region, to me, and Smith County and Maplewood will be playing for 3rd place. That's just kind of how I see this playing out. East Nashville and Stratford. East Nashville has their sights on some big things this year, with Pearl-Cohn leaving to go to 4A. The East Nashville, they've got a shot for head coach Jamal Stewart in his 2nd year, and they could have a really, really big year over there.
Oh yeah, that team is loaded. 8 defensive starters, 8 offensive starters returning. Biggest question is going to be quarterback. How do you replace Kwame Jemison? Zach Beard's going to take over there. He's not going to replicate it, but if he can step in and manage that position right, he's got good wide receivers there. But I want to look at that October 1st game because I don't think that's a gimme. Matt Dyer's got some speed, and the biggest kid I've ever seen in 6'9", 355, Dane Woodard. The kid is just massive. I mean, he's a man among boys out there. And I think that Matt has stacked this team up pretty good with size. And knowing Coach Dyer, these kids are going to be ready to play. Yeah, I think that Smith County, under the right circumstances, could give Stratford a game here. And they may, if they do, then they may end up with the inside track at a home game.
Maybe so. I don't know if they'll be able to keep up with Cameron Davis at quarterback and Darker Perkins McAllister at safety for Stratford. They've got two legitimate college talents at those positions. It's going to be hard pressed for Smith County to keep up with those two teams in front of them in East Nashville and Stratford, just because of the talent that they're going to have on both sides of the ball. Smith County is still kind of in that really rebuilding phase. And I know Matt Dyer personally. I know he's invested in this program. He played there in the early 2000s. He'll have this program in the right direction in a couple of years. I don't know that year one's going to be it for them, though, just because of the competition that they have in front of them.
I can see that, and I think that they've definitely got some work to do on the offensive side, especially with their passing game, because they're going to have to be multifaceted. It's not a gimme, but I do think that October 1st game could be something to see.
Yep. And I think for Smith County, the key in any game against a Stratford is going to be your ball control. And I think your size comes back to that. They've got 11 guys that are going to see action in the trenches that average 260 pounds. And, of course, Scott mentions Dane Woodard. I mean, that's just a monster out there. Then you've got Javier Gaspar, who's also 6'2" at about 335, 340. That's another big kid. If they can control that line of scrimmage, that slow the tempo of the game down, that does favor them. And, the passing attack's not what they've had in years past, but they've got a good little quarterback in Johnny Lida. He's a heady player. He's a good dual threat quarterback, and they've got some kids in those skill positions. They've gotten some work, and I know they've struggled a bit the last couple of years, but Coach Dyer, with his enthusiasm and his passion, I think they could give a Stratford a run for that second place spot. Going to be very hard to beat East, I think, but I still think number 2 could be up for grabs as well.
All right. Good stuff there, guys. Region 6 and 3A has some changes within it as well. Look at the standings from 2020. Stewart County beat Fairview in the last week of the season to win that region title. Those two teams returned in this region for 2021, but there's a lot of change beyond it, and some of those changes include White House and White House Heritage moving down from 4A to 3A, Waverly coming up to Class 3A, Harpeth and Camden moving down to Class 2A, and this region now goes to 7 teams for 2021, with Fairview, Stewart County, Cheatham County sticks around, Sycamore, Waverly, White House, and White House Heritage. Guys, this could be a fun little region to look at just because Fairview and Stewart County can't think that they're going to be 1-2 if they don't watch out.
Yeah, this could get bloody. I mean, honestly, you could see a lot of teams beating up on each other here, and really confusing the situation. You're right, Chris. You have one off week, and you could find yourself in that 5th slot.
Look at those some of the skills. Let's look at some of those key games. I can't even talk right now.
You're excited.
I know. I'm ready to go for this. Region 6 key games. Let's try this again. September 3rd, Stewart County and Fairview, a rematch of that Week 11 game from last year, but they open the region schedule with each other now, which is unfortunate because it's a big game and they're going to play it in Week 3.
Yeah, that's a huge. In past years that would have been, and it still could be for the region, and it's going to be anticlimactic at the early part of the season. Well, I say that right after I said carnage.
Well, you always like to see these matchups toward the end of the season. I know you can't always get them scheduled that way, but like you say, this is the first region game right out of the gate, but it could set the tone, and whoever loses this game, they have little to no room for error, especially if they want a home playoff game.
2 teams to watch out for are the White House schools, both White House and White House Heritage. And I think both of them have their sights set on bigger things than just making the playoffs in this region. I mean, they have eyes on challenging for this region title. I had a couple of players message me that said, "Don't sleep on White House." So you didn't mention them. And they play their crosstown rival on October 29th. And it's a good way to end the regular season with a rival like that. And it could have a lot of implications on a lot of teams.
Well, Rain and Blackburn's back, and whenever you have Rain and Blackburn, you've got a chance. He's a heck of a player, and another one of those, Chris, that you're talking about is a two-way star. Anytime he touches the ball, he can take it to the house. But I like this White House Heritage team. I think that even though they only have one starter returning, the new guys have size, and I think Coach Dickerson has really got these guys turning a corner here and getting it going. And they got Malachi Alaramendi. Gosh, I hope I pronounced that right.
Actually, yeah.
Fun kid. He was a player of the week for us last season. Yeah. Last season. He's a pounder, but he's got good speed. So that's going to be a fun game. I agree. I think the White House Heritage White House game is going to be absolutely fun, and I think it's going to be meaningful at that point.
Now, we sat in on Williamson County Schools Media Day, and Fairview was there, and I asked Chris Hughes about the uniforms that they're going to be wearing, because they typically wear their highlighter yellow uniforms every week, and they generally wear those on the road. So when they go to White House, that could be a visual matchup for the ages, because of the White House traditional blue and white against Fairview's highlighter yellow. That could always be a fun thing to watch. And they're getting turf this year. The Yellow Jackets are going to have turf for the first time this year. They wanted highlighter yellow turf, and they couldn't get it, which would have been cool, but they're still getting turf, so it's a big deal for them.
Might have been like Boise State. They might have blended in so well. It certainly would have been a big-time home field advantage for them.
Oh, my gosh. Chris, you mentioned the media day. It seemed to you like these guys have a long memory and a bad taste in their mouth from last year?
They do, because they were cruising along for the longest time, and Fairview loses Logan Nardozzi late in the year, and then they lose to Stewart County, and then East Nashville plucks them in the first round of the playoffs, and that hurt them. That hurt them because they looked like they had a chance to make a fairly decent run.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Who fills in that role? I know that Clavenger is looking like it. Another one of those two-way players, because he's a monster defensive end. But you just don't replace a Logan Nardozzi.
No, you really don't.
But I think it's going to be this team. I think defensively is just really, really stacked.
Yeah, that's going to be a big key, because they can score a lot of points, but they gave up quite a few last year, and I know Chris Hughes is going to want to have some of those points back. So being able to stop teams is going to be key for Fairview, especially in this region. Stewart County obviously wants to win it again. Waverly may have something to say about that as well, but to me, it comes down to Fairview and can they control what they can control, and that's the thing.
And truthfully, going back to that September 3rd game, I don't know that I would want to play Fairview early in the season when they have all that bad stuff in their memory.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a great point. I mean, the kids that are staying around from last year, they're going to come into week 3 hungry and a bit angry too. So they may very well try to take it out on Stewart County. I wouldn't be surprised. So that'll be an interesting watch for this region to really kind of set the tone for the rest of the year. But I come back to that White House Heritage and White House game just because it's a crosstown rivalry. And I remember the first time that they actually played each other. They played at Vanderbilt the first 2 years, if I remember right. The first time they played at White House was so tough to get a ticket to. You almost couldn't, because they were so amped up about a city rivalry coming back home. And I don't know that it'll be maybe a madhouse atmosphere this year, but it'll be a good night to be over there for the regular season finale for those two teams. And it could be a lot on the line in that game, and one to watch out for as we go through the year.
Yeah, I expect there to be a lot on the line in that game, to be honest. And Scott mentioned look out for White House. Don't sleep on them. Maybe just keep them in the back of your mind there, but they got a lot of upperclassmen coming back this year. And I don't think a lot of people are looking at White House. Everybody is looking at Fairview and Stewart County right now. And so the two White House teams, they're kind of flying under the radar here a little bit. And, White House Heritage, as you mentioned, they've been building patiently toward getting to a point they want to be where they think they can be really competitive. This year might be that year where they start surprising some people. So to me, that October 29th game, that could very well have some serious playoff implications on it. You factor that in with an inner city rivalry, Chris, that may just be a tough ticket to get that night. You never know, just depending on what's all on the line that night.
I mean, those are two proud programs as far as their football goes, and when they play one another, it's a tough ticket anyway. I mean, it's a fun night between those two teams for sure. So Region 6 is going to be interesting, and it's one of those that we'll be keeping an eye on all year as far as who might be going to the playoffs and who might not be, along with the rest of the regions in every class in the Middle Tennessee area. So good time to be a high school football fan because it's getting really, really interesting, Scott. And one way for people to be able to support coverage of high school football, we've talked about this a little bit before. This is Stadium Club. So why don't you tell us about the Stadium Club and some of the benefits?
Well, great. The Stadium Club is for our supporters. It's $5 a month or $50 a year. It is prorated this year. So if you get in now, it's $25 because it rolls over and starts again in January. In that, you get 10% off of merchandise, our T-shirts, our hats, and we have more merch coming as we continue to develop. You also get to vote on members' polls. If we have live streams, you'll get the private invitation to that. You get to have your name listed as a Stadium Club supporter at the end of the video. If we had some signed up now, it'd be running across the bottom as we exit. And then you get a free gift from us every 6 months. Now, how great is that? You get a free gift from us every 6 months. So it's just Christmas comes twice a year. So, all this, for $5 a month. And what you're doing is you're helping to support high school football in our 15 county area. You're helping to, support us by allowing us to get out there to more games with better equipment and just do more to highlight the kids in this area. Back to you, Chris.
Well, a couple of ways you can support us too. You can Venmo us, you can PayPal us, or you can send us a good old fashioned paper check. Those things I don't like to write.
They still have those?
They still make. I don't know. I haven't seen one in a while. Scott can confirm it though. So
yes, my accountant is firmly believes in those things still.
But for more information on the Stadium Club, you can email us at 615preps@gmail.com, and we'll tell you more about it. We'll answer your questions, how you want to pay. Doesn't matter. But hop in. Now's a good time. And 2021 is going to be a fun year, and we're excited to bring it to you throughout the year on YouTube. This is the first time we've actually done one of these on YouTube. So, guys, tell me how you thought about all this. Does it work for you? Does it not?
No, Chris, it's terrible. I hate it. You can't reach through the computer and get me now.
Oh man, you're right about it. I can't throw a shoe at you.
Yeah, I know. And you were getting so good with your aim last year.
Yeah, a couple of good shots.
Well, I got to say, after 11 years of TV and sitting here tonight, I have come to realize for certain I have a face made for radio. So otherwise, it's been great. And, hey, I'm excited about the new venture for myself and just the season coming up. And, I think everybody's amped up more about football at all levels, but it's always good to see people amped up about high school football because, the kids still playing it for the love of the game. I want to see a great season, and I think we're going to have a whole lot of fun this year.
There's nothing like Friday night football anywhere, and especially around here. There's just something special about going to the field on a Friday night. Especially when it gets colder and the temperature drops a little bit in October, and it just is a special thing, and I'm glad to be able to help cover it more. And I'm excited about this year. I know you guys are, and folks listening and watching on YouTube, I hope you guys are too. So, enjoy the ride. Thank you all for joining us for our first preview show. We're going to have 3 more of these before we get into our normal weekly cadence. Just follow us on social media at Twitter at 615preps. And you can see our handles are next to our names on the screen. I'm at Brooks_615. Scott's at SBurton615. Tom is at Tom R. Duggan, all on Twitter. He follows on Instagram as well and Facebook. But most importantly, like and subscribe right here on YouTube, because this is where everything's going to happen throughout the 2021 season, and you don't want to miss it. So, like,
make sure you. I'm sorry, Chris. Make sure you click that bell, just as what you were saying there. That way you won't. It'll remind you when you click that bell that we have new content.
And it makes Scott happy when you click the bell.
It does. Every time a bell rings, well, I just get happy.
Let's just leave it at that. All right. That's all the time we got for our first preview show in Class 1, 2, and 3A. Our next episode will be Classes 4 and 5A, and will come your way very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. For Tom, for Scott, I'm Chris. Thank you for watching 615 Preps Midstate 48, where we get you ready for the Friday night football in 48 minutes or less.